Hello and welcome to the 59th episode of Out of State DMing. I'm your host, Lux Blackheart. My co hosts are running a little late today, so I will be starting us off, and we'll throw them in when they're able to show up. Last we left off was with first level Sorcerer Wizard spells. And today we'll be covering second level spells. Just had to fix that real quick. Okay, yay. The first one is Arcane Lock. You can use this to magically lock a portal or a chest. When it says portal, it does not mean a literal portal. What it means is a shut door, shut gate, any form of chest, and technically speaking, anything capable of technically being locked. Arcane Lock can lock it. So it can be quite useful if you're in a predicament where you're trying to rest in a dungeon or a castle, wherever you are at, or you can cast this spell, and as long as the spell is active, a shut door stays shut unless it's smashed down or someone somehow bypasses the arcane lock, which is usually like a dispel magical device. It can be useful that way. The next spell is Obscure Object. A lot of people misscrewed this spell a little bit, but what it does is it masks an object, not objects, but an object against scrying. So if you have in your possession an item that people are looking for, and they're attempting to use any means to find it, scrying is the main way to do it. But what this does goes, this magical sword that everyone wants, it's now obscured, so they can't use scrying to do it. And the way scrying works, if you're trying to scry a person, location, or a thing, if it's obscured, it auto fails. Or if you are scrying the person thinking they have the object does not appear on the scrying. So you can look at the person all day long, but if they're supposed to have this mighty sword of swordiness, well, if they have the sword on their back or on their hip, you're not going to see it. The only giveaway would be if it's noticeably obscuring other things in a weird position, like a quiver of arrows sticking out weirdly or something like that, or if they're holding in their hand, but you just see their hand like this. You don't see anything in their hand, but they're obviously manipulating something in their hand that's protected against scrying. So you can go, they're protecting something. They must have it, or they could have it, or they just have something else that's protected against scrying. The next spell is a pretty decent one. It's another one that people somewhat mess up on because they think it covers literally everything, even though the description goes into more detail about what it does and does not actually protect you against, and it's protection from arrows. And the subject becomes immune to most ranged attacks, not all. Just keywords, most ranged attacks. A lot of people automatically assume that they're covered from all range attacks, such as like the ranged gaze attack of a basilisk, or a ooh, excuse me, burpee. Uh, or like such things like that that are far from being an arrow. There's typically, this again, the spell goes into better detail. It's would be like arrows and bolts, not like thrown weapons, like a boulder being launched at you. The next spell is Resist Energy. This can be useful. When you cast it, you have to declare what energy type, and you ignore the first 10 points of damage from that particular attack. But it's only against that. Some people think that it protects against all energy things, when it's like, no, it's specified energy type, or specified energy type. So if you go resist energy cold, and someone uses a fire attack on you, well, it doesn't protect you against fire, it only protects you against cold. The next spell is Fog Cloud. So it's pretty much a better version of Obscuring Mist. It's just a better fog that obscures vision. So it has better protections. I think also like a better area of effect. So it's slightly better than Obscuring Mist. Then we have Glitter Dust. A lot of people get it thinking that it's automatically going to work. What Glitter Dust does is it blinds creatures and outlines invisible creatures. Well, if the creature is not within the area of effect of the spell, they're not affected by it. So a lot of people go, we're fighting an invisible foe. Well, it stabbed this person over here while still maintaining its invisibility. Or, oh, we saw him go invisible over there, so therefore they must still be in that spot. So they hit that spot and they get upset that the person's not outlined. Because it's like, well, they're not obviously there. Because the only reason it would be there is if you saw them move there and then turn invisible. But typically, creatures go invisible, then move. Not the other way around. Players have the bad habit of moving and then turning invisible there because they think that they're going to be protected. Totally completely forgetting that the creature's going to target where you were just at when you went invisible because it saw you move there and then go invisible. It has limited actions just like you. It has the same actions as you. So unless it's something like an unintelligent creature that has no concept of any of that stuff, like a zombie, then it's probably going to go after where you just moved. Especially if it's an intelligence caster that says, oh, you're in that area, so I'm just going to use this spell on that area because you're in that area. Because yes, I've had to get in many of those arguments with people going, but I'm invisible, how does it know it's there? Because you moved there, then turned invisible. Not turn invisible, then moved over there. This, if you go invisible first, and then you move, unless they have the ability to see invisibility, or technically detect magic, because detect magic highlights magic, invisibility doesn't protect you against magic. Well, detect magic. So unless you go invisibly first and move there, you're going to be pretty safe because the entities don't that you would normally provoke attacks for opportunities to, unless they have some sort of extra ability that lets them know you're there, they're not going to know you're there. But if you move over there, then go invisibility, well, then you're asking to get hit. So it's about sequence of events. Do one thing before you do the other thing. mainly because it's the smart thing to do. So glitter dust, if you don't know the creature's there, wait till something happens to signify that it's in that area before casting glitter dust. Otherwise, you're wasting glitter dust. Or just use it to blind creatures, because it has the ability to blind creatures. That's another good aspect of the spell, because you can go, hey, look, I don't really want this creature getting advantages of us, so glitter dust it. Some people may go, but it's already invisible. It's like, but I'm going to blind it, haha. So you don't have to save it for invisible creatures. You can save it for creatures you just want to blind. It's one of the reasons why it's a good spell, because it's multifaceted like that. The next spell is Melv's Acid Arrow. This spell gets a lot of hate, and I don't know why. There's a lot of people out there that just think it's a stupid spell. There's other better second level spells. But it's a ranged touch attack that does 2d4 damage, that's acid, for 1 round, with additional 1 round per 3 caster levels. That means you hit them, they take 2d4. If you're not quite high enough level for it to get the actual bonus rounds, for at least 1 round, because you're probably going to be at level 3 when you take this, they're going to take another 2d4. If you're level 9, well, that's 1 round plus 3 rounds, so for 4 rounds, they're taking 2d4 damage. If you're level 12, that's 5 rounds. 15 is 6 rounds. 18 is 7 rounds. So the higher level you are, the better it is, because it lasts longer. And because a lot of people don't pay attention to this, fire and cold are the most resisted and immune effects you're going to run across, mainly because those are the 2 most common elemental spells used. So for a decent acid spell like Melv's Acid Arrow, you're pretty golden, you're pretty set, because it does decent damage, and the fact that it goes on for rounds means that it just gets better the higher level you get. You know, some people may go, well, this does this does that, this does this. It's like 2d4 for 1 round with additional 1 round per 3 levels. It's always great. Then we got Summon Monster 2, which, just like with any other summon monster, it summons a monster from the 2nd level list, or a couple from the 1st list. Then we have Summon Swarm, like summon a swarm of bats, rats, or spiders. So you can have a swarm milling about, messing monsters up and stuff for you. Then we have Web. Web can put any creature in a sticky situation, because it fills a 20-foot radius spread, which means it doesn't care about blocking. It doesn't really tell about actual blocking terrain unless it can't get inside the area. Because it just spreads about, unlike a fireball, that if there's a wall there, it doesn't go through. It doesn't affect anything on the side of the wall. While spread is, if there's any sort of like windows or underneath a door, it can spread underneath the door to actually get inside that area too. So you can get around obstacles like that. And it's sticky spider web, which can impede movement, trap creatures. But if you, just like with any other AoE effect, if you manage to put it in the wrong spot, you can restrict and or just hinder party members. Even though it's a great combo to use with Fireball, because if the creatures are trapped in the web, they're denied their reflex saving throw, so therefore there's no saving throw for your Fireball. But Fireball does destroy all the web, so it's like a deny you this so I can do this. Then we have Detect Thoughts, that allows listening to surface thoughts. So you can see what's on the surface of what sentient creatures are thinking. Anything that's immune to mental effects, like undead, constructs, technically vermin, those things you can't tell. Does it? Yeah. Anything that's labeled pretty much as mindless, you they're gonna auto pass because there's no thoughts for you to listen to. But it can be good just for doing it. The Illithids use that a lot. It's one of their go-to effects. Next, we have locate objects. You can sense the direction towards an object, a specific, extremely specific object or a specific type. The catch-22 is the more broad your of an item you're looking for, as in, like, if you go locate object gold coins, it's going to literally point you in the direction of the closest gold coin. That includes any gold coin you're carrying on you, and or any gold coins being carried by other party members. So you'd have to get like specific, like this gold coin that has a quarter of it missing. That's it's within the parameters of the spell, and it's specific enough to weed it out from other coin pieces. Or if you're like, I want to locate object a long sword with the symbol of a god, or with God X on it, because they put a God X on it. It's not going to locate all the long swords within the range of spells. It's only going to locate the ones with those markings on them. So, like, if you're looking for, like, a Holy Avenger, because, like, the Paladin's Holy Avenger got stolen, or there's supposed to be one in this particular area, or you're looking for a Paladin that's supposed to have one, and you're having problems locating him, but you're like, he's somewhere here. Locate object Holy Avenger. It's going to hone in on the closest Holy Avenger. So unless you and or the party's Paladin has one, you're going to be able to hone in and go, that's the guy we're looking for because he has the Holy Avenger. So it's just about what object you're actually trying to find and how specific you're trying to be with it. And if it's not within the range of the spell, you're not being pointed in a direction. The spell has its own range. And if the distance between you and the object exceeds that, the spell doesn't work, because it only points to you. So it's like, I think it's like 100 feet or something like that. Like 100 feet with additional 10 feet per caster level. So let's just go with 100 feet. So if it's outside 100 feet, the spell won't work. But if it's inside 100 feet, the spell works. So just be slightly specific with what you're trying to locate. And oh, hey, look, I brought up this spell earlier. See Invisibility. What See Invisibility does is when you cast it, and for the duration of it, it reveals invisible creatures or objects. Now, when it says reveals them, it doesn't mean the entire group gets to see them. It means you get to see it. Because anyone under the effects of See Invisibility gets to see things that are invisible. Not everyone, because it's not a direct counter to invisibility for everyone. It's a direct counter for who's casting it. I have to make that distinction, because in the past people have cast See Invisibility, now we all get to see it. It's like, no, that's not how it works. It only affects one creature, and it lets that creature see the invisible. It doesn't make the invisible creature visible now, or affect a crap ton of people. It only affects, dun dun dun, who's under the effect of the spell. The next spell is Daze Monster. Living creatures of 6 hit die or less lose their next action. So it's a great way to just limit what a creature can and cannot do, because you're denying them actions. And it is one of those spells that people like at first, but then once they get to the point where the creatures they're fighting are above 6 hit dice, they immediately call it a trash spell. When it's like, It's still good. You just have to hope that you're not fighting something above it. Then we have a spell that can be quite hilarious. Tesha's Hideous Laughter. What it does is the subject loses actions for 1 round per caster level. So the higher level you are, the longer they're pretty much just laughing. This ability, a lot more this spell. This spell is something that a lot of players like because like, I'm gonna make them laugh. But in my experience, a lot of players that actually take the spell and try to overhype the spell then get argumentative and angry because the group of zombies isn't being affected by it. Or, we're fighting a lich, I'm gonna use Tesha's Hideous Laughter on it. It's an undead. It's not gonna work. And then they'll turn around and get angry when an enemy uses it on them. Because it's one of those spells that a lot of people will have no problem using and abusing, but the moment it's used on them, they immediately get angry, argumentative, insultive, because it's one of those how dare you things. One of my favorite Fae gets Tesha's Hideous Laughter as a at-will ability that they're immune to and their kindred are immune to. So like a group of them shows up. Well, no, sorry, it's not an at-will thing. They have limited use to it. And the thing that's horrendous about this, each time one activates it, the duration of the laughter gets extended. So unlike normal, where if you cast Hideous Laughter twice, you go with they're laughing for however much time is for the second one, while this particular Fae has compounding things, which I think is hilarious. But it's one of those creatures that makes people immediately hate the spell and call it bullcrap because it's like literally all you're doing in your action is laughing. That's it. You technically get to defend yourselves normally, but you cannot attack, cast spells, or move. All you're doing is laughing. So I've seen people rage quit and refuse to return to the table because their character got hit with it. And I'm not talking about like every game session or every fight. I mean, they got hit with it once and had to spend 5 rounds laughing. And they're like, they're just absolutely done because how could this happen to them? Despite the fact that they're one of the people that love spam using spells like this. So it is a spell that I find that people have a love-hate relationship for. The next spell is another spell that everyone has no problem using it, but the moment it gets used on them, they're willing to try to get into a fist fight. Touch of Idiocy. The subject loses a die 6 points of intelligence, a die 6 wisdom, and a die 6 of charisma. Which really sucks for any and all casters because those are the stats that casters use. If you're a wizard, it's intelligence. If you're any sort of divine caster, it's wisdom. If you're like a sorcerer or a bard, it's charisma. But I've literally seen people just start losing their minds because they failed the saving throw. Their stats got low just enough that they couldn't cast any spells because like, hey, look, now you have a 9 intelligence, can't cast any spells. You have a 10 wisdom, 10 wisdom. You can only cast 0 level spells. Oh, now we're getting to an argument because that's too broken of a spell for a bad guy to have. It's like it's literally a 2nd level spell. Why wouldn't low level creatures have a 2nd level spell? Despite like they're the same people who will sit there and over prep it so that way they can defeat the monster by simply Touch of Idiocy on them. And because it's a will saving throw, each time they fail and they take that die 6 wisdom hit, their will saving throws drop. Therefore, it makes it easier for the second one and then the third one to actually work. So it's definitely funny to see people react to the table being turned and how quickly they'll become super toxic and argumentative and combative because they pretty much don't want any spells being cast on them, despite they're willing to cast it on literally everything, including other party members. Yes, I said it. I've been on many tables where Touch of Ipsy has been used on other party members, simply because someone got a little butthurt that they lost an argument. So therefore, have your stats lowered. But moving on to Continual Flame, it makes a permanent heatless torch. You technically don't have to cast it on a torch yourself. You can cast it on pretty much just about any object, and it looks like real fire, but it doesn't produce heat, doesn't produce smoke, so you can't use it for cooking. So you can literally get a torch, hit it with permanent flame. When you don't want to use it, you take a sack, put it over it. Now it's not producing light because the sack's stopping the light from going through. But if you want light, you just pull it off. Voila. It is a spell that a lot of people don't actually use because they're either focusing on the spell light, and or multiple party members have found some way to go, I have dark vision, or I have low light vision. It's like, that's not going to help you in every single case. And what about the people who can't see in dark or don't have low light vision? They need to see. They need to, otherwise their characters aren't going to be very useful because they cannot see. So Continual Flame really helps that. So yes, humans, that's for you. Then we got Darkness, which is one of the best spells, but also one of the worst, because people automatically assume that just because they cast it, they can see in it, when that's not the case. If you cast Darkness on a location while you're within the 20-foot radius or not, you can't see in it, you can't see through it. If a creature can see, not like blind sense or blind sight, but if a creature can actually see in darkness, you should probably be worried, because that's something limited to quite potent entities of the lower realms, such as like a bunch of the demons and devils. They can see in within the spell Darkness, and even this bigger version, Deeper Darkness. But those are pretty much it. If you have dark vision, that doesn't let you see in darkness. It is supernatural shadows. It's supernatural darkness. It's not normal darkness. It counters dark vision. So there is no, I have dark vision, haha. No, it doesn't let you see through it because it's not normal. So you can use it to, if you're cast at the right spot, so you're not really in it, or you're at the edge of it, you can use it to get away from a bunch of monsters, because they're not going to be able to properly see, so they're going to be doing limited movement just to try to get out, so you can easily buy yourself a few rounds of getting the heck out of there. So it can be really good. Or if you just want to upset an entire room full of creatures, like, this bar's getting rowdy. Darkness. Now no one can see. Ah ha 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 ha. Yes, that's happened in games. Next, we got a spell that's not commonly used. And when used, people don't fully read it. So when we get to descriptions, we'll cover it. Flaming Sphere. You create a rolling ball of fire that does 2d6 damage. Lasts for 1 round per caster level. And it does have its own limited movement. And it doesn't have to attack anything. It can just move through an area. Anything in that area it just moved through takes the damage. So you can light billions on fire. Pre-burn, boom. But one of the things people don't pay attention to is It's one of those, you're spending an action to direct it. So in order for you to do anything else, you have to pass a concentration check, or you can't really direct it that turn. It kind of just sits there. So if you want to cast another spell, do any other attacks or anything, you have to maintain your some level of concentration. But it can be useful, but not that many people actually take it, because they rather take other spells. Then there's Gust of Wind. It blows away or knocks down smaller creatures. Pretty much small creatures of a small size or lower can be affected by Gust of Wind. Medium-sized creatures are kind of like, I don't care. Anything bigger than that's kind of looking at you like, thank you for the Gust of Wind. That was very refreshing. It is used on sailboats a lot to help get the ship out of tacking or being stuck running against the wind or anything like that. By having the sails go, get that short boost in the direction that they actually needs to go. So a lot of sail ships that employ a wizard or a sorcerer, Gust of Wind is probably going to be a spell they're going to use a lot, because it can help with that maneuverability, and probably getting out of certain problematic situations. Then we have one of my favorite spells, Scorching Ray. It's a ranged touch attack that deals 4d6 fire damage, and you get an additional ray for every 4 levels you possess to a max of 3 rays. So when if you're high enough level and you cast it, you pretty much hit 3 attacks with it. It doesn't necessarily have to be against the same person, but you can still do a lot of damage with it. And it is a ranged touch attack. So it is, hands down, a pretty good spell. Especially because it's just a good spell all around. Next, we have Shatter, which says sonic vibrations that damage object or crystalline creatures. So if you want to break glass, windows, ceramic plates, or if you manage to actually run across an actual crystalline creature, that's the spell for you. But that's pretty much it. If you're trying to use it on anything that's not pretty much some form of object or crystalline creature, it's not really going to do anything. It's like you go, take this orc, shatter. It's going to look at you like you cast the wrong spell, because it's going to go, Because again, it's mainly for objects. Then we have Blur. Attacks gain a mischance of 20%. Meaning anytime an attack that has to be rolled, for instance, like someone casting Scorching Ray, or someone shooting a bow, or someone swinging an axe, whoever has Blur on them, there's a 20% chance that it auto misses. That it just straight up automatically misses. It's not a very high chance, because again, 20%, that's 1 out of every 5 attacks that auto missed. That, it does help, especially when you're in a long engagement fight or fighting a lot of creatures trying to hit you. Having statistically 1 out of every 5 of that enemy group's attacks miss automatically can be all the difference between your character going negative in hit points or not. Then we have Hypnotic Pattern, which fascinates 2d4 plus level hit dice worth of creatures. That can affect allies. It is not a nitpick spell. It is I cast it in this area. The closest creatures are being affected by it. I hope the allies aren't the closest ones. There is some, with some of the expanded books, some metamagic feats that can help correct that, like selective. That's actually nitpick who the spell is or isn't affecting. But it's still a really good spell because you can run up into a group of enemies, cast it. Hopefully, you get high on the 2 die 4, and you can have like an entire group of like orcs suddenly fascinated with you, which means the party gets at least one turn to get in a better position, or they have a short time window to get heals on themselves, take care of those who aren't affected by the spell and stuff, while you're pretty much just going, yay, look at me, you're all fascinated, yay. The next spell is probably a widely used, no one has an actual problem with it until they're pointed out that certain actions immediately dispel it. Invisibility. Invisibility, just like the spell says, you become invisible. Which there is 2 ways to handle invisibility. There's what the spell says, and then there's the fact that it's like, you're invisible, I can't see things that are invisible. The particular book, well, in the book, it states that if you are moving, invisibility gives you a plus 20 to your hide checks. If you're standing still, it gets plus 40. And that's because as you're moving, and the spell is constantly trying to work to keep you invisible, there's a slight chance that people notice something off. And the best way to explain that is what the movies do for the predators in all of the Predator movies, where you can see, like, it looks like there's something moving there, but you can see straight through it. It's pretty much technically like something like that. How just the movement's just off enough because the spell's trying to compensate, that people can notice that a vague outline of something moved there, or like just something moved there, but there's nothing there. I generally, unless a creature actually has the capability of beating a 20 on a spot check, I generally have the creature not notice. Because again, it gives a plus 20. That is a huge bonus. And since this is a 2nd level spell, so you can get it relatively early, if you're fighting a creature that can beat a plus 20, either A, someone's doing math wrong, B, you're fighting a wee bit too powerful of a creature, or C, there's something off going on. There's something happening that's letting it actually make that check. Because if it's making the check, again, it's a problem. It's, like I said, someone not doing math correctly. It's above you're trying to punch above your pay grade, or there's just something off going on. There's like the only real ways to bypass it would be obviously see invisibility. That's a direct counter. There's blind sense, blind sight, tremor sense. Those things do bypass it, but not necessarily in the, oh, I just get all my normal stuff against you. They still technically go, I know where you're at, so I get a 50% mischance to swing it at you. But if a creature can openly go, oh, I know you're there because I beat your stealth check, because you have at minimum 20 coming from the spell, and I beat that. Again, either it's way above your pay grade, someone can't do math, or there's something else going wrong, like an asshole DM really wanting you to suffer. Because I've been there, done that. Now, also, any and all pretty much things you do that can be counted as a hostile action breaks invisibility. It does not matter if it's like, well, All I did was cast Fireball, hostile action. I stabbed him, hostile action. Pretty much anything that can be classified as hostile breaks it. Straight up breaks it. Which a lot of people can't seem to grasp that, because it's higher level invisibility spells start to get around that, not the baseline one. It's a really good spell, but it's not perfect, especially compared to the bigger versions. Next, we have Lemon's Trap. It makes an item seem trapped. Pretty much meaning, if you cast it on a chest, or on a door, or a lock, the object, if someone does anything to locate traps, as in the spell that lets someone do trap finding, or a rogue doing trap finding, the object appears to be trapped. There's a little bit more details to it, but we'll get to it when we cover the spell itself. But I've honestly never seen anyone use the spell. Honestly, because a lot of people's defenses, if I have to make things seem trapped so someone doesn't mess with it, I might as well actually make it trapped, because if I have to go that far because of the party trying to steal stuff from me, then I'm just not going to play with those people. There are toxic players out there. Next, we have Magic Mouth, which speaks once when triggered. So you can cast it on an area to say a certain thing. Because when it says speaks, it doesn't mean it has a full conversation. It's kind of like, I'm going to leave a message here, but instead of it being written or anything, I'm going to cast it here, and when this triggers it, like let's say someone walks within 5 feet, or someone within a close proximity of it says a certain word, a mouth appears, it's pretty much lips with teeth appear, and just says what it's going to say, and then disappears. So you can use it to leave clues that if certain people know how to, that you're doing it and what your trigger is going to be, you can literally guide an entire group in a direction without actually having to wait for them there to do it, because you can just leave a magic mouth there and just boom. Next, we have Minor Image, which is as Silent Image, but with some sounds. Like that, Silent Image is an image that doesn't produce sound. Minor Image does produce some sounds. Then there's also Mirror Image. Mirror Image creates decoy duplicates of you with die 4 with additional +1 per 3 levels to a maximum of 8 decoys. This is a pretty decent spell because creatures have to guess what one's the real you. But what it does not do is give you a crap ton of extra crap to do, because those decoys can't actually cast spells, they can't actually attack, because they're not actual tangible entities. They are literally just images that are mimicking what you're having to mimic. Saying things. When you cast a spell, they'll make it look like they're also casting a spell, so the creature can't immediately tell what actual creature casts the spell. So you still have to be on what spells you cast and what actions you cast, because if you pull out a sword and swing, and it's going to know what sword hit it, that's real. It's like, oh, this sword coming from this one right here, that's the one that actually hit me. The rest passed through me, therefore this one's real. So you have to still play it careful so creatures can't automatically go, you're the real one. But it can be useful. But it's also one of the spells that I rarely see used. Then we have Misdirection. It misleads divinations for one creature or object. What that pretty much means is any sort of divinations cast to gain information, like detect thoughts, locate object, uh, it misdirections. So if you cast it on an item and someone goes, when I cast locate object for that item, well, misdirections put on it, so it's not necessarily going to help them find it because you're using a spell to counter it. Detect thoughts, similar thing. You're not going to get the thoughts you want because of misdirection. That spell I've only really seen used for when players are trying to counteract or just straight up mess with other players. Because they're like, oh, that guy likes to use detect thoughts, so that way he can know what everyone else is going to do. So instead of actually communicating with us, he's just going to use mental spells to do it for him. So misdirect. So if he goes to read my thoughts, he's going to get the exact opposite of what he's trying to get. So he actually has to, communicate with me. And like vice versa for other divination spells. Because, again, toxic players can make more toxic players, or just make people try to counteract their toxicity with other things, such as the spell blindness/deafness. Now this spell makes the subject blind or deaf, not both. You have to cast it multiple times in order to actually get both to trigger. This is one of the spells that I haven't really seen used much on creatures as much as I have seen it on people using it on other players. Because, yeah, people thinking it's funny to hinder or pretty much incapacitate other party members because they have access to a spell that does it, and they think it's funny. So, yes, another spell used by toxic players. And the only real times I've seen it used, people have tried to use it on creatures that's like, did you just cast blindness on this creature here? Yeah, so now it can't see us. The creature's not hindered. Why? Because it has no eyes for you to blind. It, literally doesn't use sight. It uses other things to do it. Or they're like, I cast, deafness. It's a skeleton. That's not gonna work. They literally are you use it on things that either lack the actual thing that the spell affects, or they're just not something that is affected by that spell. For instance, like constructs and undead, they'll just look at you like, I love the fact you tried, but which leaves them to either get rid of the spell or decide that because they got laughed at by that party member over there, that party member is going to become blind in the morning. The next spell is something not necessarily overly used. It's something underly used, mainly because either they just don't want to deal with the problems associated with it, or they think it's automatically going to work and then get pissed off that it doesn't. Command Undead. Undead creatures obeys your commands. It's pretty simple. It does have its own built-in limitations and stuff, and it's an actual mind-affecting spell that does affect undead. The problem I've seen people have is when they cast it on, vampires or liches. Or even the rare Draco Lich going, haha, it's going to be mine now. It's like, it gets a saving throw. And? Yeah, it passed. or because it's your overall level determines just how many undead you can actually command. It's like, yay, you're not powerful enough to actually command it, which that should tell you right now, right then and there, how powerful the creature is. Or it's you already have X amount of undead underneath your command. It exceeds that limit, so therefore it's not going to be affected by it. Which means you have to spend the time on nitpicking how many other undead you're going to have to release from your control in order to gain control of it. And since you don't know exactly how many hit dice it has, you have to play the guessing game of, did I get rid of too many or not enough? But people love to try to think it's automatically going to succeed, forgetting that certain undead still get the saving throws, or that if they're not high enough level, they're not going to be able to control it. Like a Draco Lich, which is which is typically an extremely high hit die undead dragon. And if you can't guess by the Lich in it, it is literally a Lich version, a dragon version of a Lich. So it's like, next we got False Life, which gives a die 10 temporary hit points with additional +1 per level to a max of +10 to whoever you cast it on. For some weird reason, a lot of people think that if something's dead, you cast False Life on it, it's going to bring them back. It's like, no, it's temporary points. It's not going to do anything to save something that's dead. Or it's going to somehow magically protect them against things that go after things or saves regarding death effects. It's like, no. You're probably thinking of some other random spell, but this gives you temporary hit points, which is always good because it means for that short period of time you're slightly harder to kill, and that can be somewhere between 2 to 20 hit points depending on the level of the caster and how good they roll. But it also means such feats such as Maximize and Empower can be cast on it, because Maximize, you're doing maximum effects, Empower, you increase it by 50%, and because it's a second level spell, both those can be put on it, so you take up a 7th level spell slot to give someone 30 temporary hit points, which a lot of people may not go, may not like it. It's like, that's not enough hit points. Like, it's 30 hit points. Immediately, right there, 30 hit points. That can be a lot for any particular person. Then we got Ghoul Touch, which paralyzes one subject, which exudes stench that makes those nearby sickened. So right there, anything that can be paralyzed is pretty much, it can't do anything for the length of it, and they smell bad. So therefore, people around them take minuses to, I think that sicken gives like a minus to attack rolls, skill checks, and AC, and attack rolls. So it's just pretty decent. On top of the fact that it's like, hey, look, you're paralyzed. You're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything. Haha. Chuck it, Shebek. Then we got Snare, which panics creatures of less than 6 hit dice. 6 hit dice may seem like a horrible limit, but you have to remember this is a 2nd level spell, not a 9th level spell. So 6 hit dice can be quite high for a while until you start to get to the point where 6 hit dice is something not that seen because you're fighting more powerful creatures, or it's just not you worth casting a spell because you have something else that works a lot better than Snare. The next spell is Spectral Hand. It creates a disembodied glowing hand to deliver touch attacks. So right there, it's pretty much the better version of Mage Hand, but it's less about picking things up and more about just having ability to deliver touch spells on creatures while it be an enemy or an ally, so you can be safer. Then there's Alter Self, which assumes the form of a similar creature. It doesn't really let you change into like a wolf or a dragon, but you can. So if you're human, you can use it to make yourself look like a dwarf or an elf. If you're a gnome, you can pass yourself off as a dwarf or a halfling, because it has built-in limitations on just how big and how small you can make yourself appear. I think it's like 10%. But it still is pretty good for putting the blame on another party member, because I've seen people do that. Doing something with an alter ego and then dismissing the spell so people don't think it's you, they think it's someone else. So it can be used as a get out of jail free card, because they're not looking for you, they're looking for someone else. And because it's alter self, it works a lot better than the illusion spells, because those can be counteracted by like true seeing still affects this, but those can be activated. Those can be bypassed by people actually doing actual interactions with. So if you're use Altered Self and you get like tackled and are being arrested by a guard, they're not going to automatically tell you have a spell in effect. And there's multiple creatures that use similar effects. Like for instance, doppelgangers have their their Alter Self ability functions a lot like this, but it's just a more advanced version, because they can go a wee bit farther. But it's still a good spell for getting other people in trouble. Then we have Bear's Endurance, which gives a bonus to Con, Bull Strength, bonus to Strength, Cat's Grace, bonus to Dex, and the spell Dark Vision, which, for those not playing at home, it gives you 60-foot Dark Vision. So if you're a creature that doesn't have Dark Vision, you can go Dark Vision. For this period of time, I can now see out to 60 feet. Yay. Even though some people might go, well, if you played this race here, you just get it naturally. So how do you like it when I pull out a torch and blind you? Haha, suck at your back. Then we have Eagle Splendor, which gives a bonus to Charisma. Fox's Cunning, which gives a bonus to Intelligence. So that's always good. Knock. I love Knock because it opens locked or magically sealed doors. So if someone has like Arcane Lock cast on the door, you can use Knock to undo it. If there's a really, really, really hard to pick lock, you can just knock it, and the lock comes undone. Because it's like, hey, look, it's now unlocked. So it's pretty much a Lilo Dally multi-pass of I get into anywhere I want because I'm literally unlocking everything. Then we have Levitate, which subject moves up and down as your direction. Now, it's not doesn't mean you get to fly actually with it. I think there is built-in limitations when we look up the spell itself. So you're kind of stuck in a boat with it. But smart players figure out how to properly use it. Then we have Owl's Wisdom, which gives a bonus to Wisdom. That's always great. Pyrotechnics, which turns fire into blinding light or choking smoke. So that can always be fun, but it's also a spell that I never see anyone use. Rope Trick. As many as 8 creatures can hide in an extra-dimensional space. Because it's literally... I think you need... the item you need for it is an actual rope. But it's pretty much this rope that shoots up into this hole that you use the rope to climb into. You can pull the rope up and shut the door so nothing else can get in. But for the duration of Rope Trick, you and up to 7 friends can have a safe spot to hide. It doesn't matter where you're at, it's a safe spot to hide. So it's always a good spell. Then we have Spider Climb, which grants you the ability to walk on walls and ceilings. Certain restrictions do apply, and we'll go over that for the spell itself. But it's real good for getting over walls, getting into certain more advantageous combat positions, so you're out of danger but still able to help your friends. And it's generally a decent spell. Then there's Whisper Winds. Send a short message up to 1 mile level away. It's pretty much a gust of wind takes the message and delivers it where you want. The higher level you are, the farther it can reach, which is always fun. On that note, we have actually covered all the second level spells for sorcerers and wizards. Sorry about the lack of co-hosts. There was, like I said, they had site scheduling problems this week. So hopefully they're able to join me next week. But remember to like and subscribe. And I will catch you guys next week. Good night.